Hey guys, my name is Rachel Neagle. I'm a Sapphire Ambassador with Plexus Worldwide, and I'm coming to you today to talk to you about methylation. What methylation is, why it is essential for your body, where the process of methylation can go wrong through a genetic mutation, and to talk to you a little bit about Plexus's recent reformulation of our XFactor vitamin. I'm going to start by letting you know that this is an independently brought message just purely for the purpose of education. I've been asked by several people to kind of explain what this is and why it's so important. It was announced at Leaders Retreat that Plexus had decided to reformulate XFactor. They wanted to be able to give us a multivitamin that is completely natural, that has no synthetic versions of vitamins in it. And a lot of people were not aware because we're talking about a vitamin. If it's a vitamin, it's got to be all natural, right? But actually, three of the ingredients that were in XFactor were lab-made vitamins. There was a synthetic version of B12, a synthetic version of vitamin E, and folic acid. And if you're a woman, you're probably very familiar, especially a woman who has had children, probably very familiar with folic acid because if you're trying to get pregnant or as soon as you are pregnant and your doctor puts you on a prenatal vitamin, they tell you that it's really important that that prenatal have folic acid in it because folic acid is going to help prevent birth defects and neural tube defects. It wasn't until recently that the medical community started to become aware that there may be an issue with folic acid in certain individuals and in their body's ability to be able to use it properly. So we're going to start by, I have the brand new XFactor in my hands. I got it yesterday. I was so excited about this. Let's talk about a couple of the switches. Let's talk about why they're important, and then we're going to end by talking about MTHFR. So, the previous version, as I mentioned, of B12 that was in this was cyanocobalamin B12. They have swapped that for methylcobalamin. So let's talk a little bit about the B12 family. So B12 as a vitamin, we know that as cobalamin. It is a vitamin family, and that family has 5 unique members, and all 5 of those members have, different jobs. But methyl B12 or methylcobalamin is the only one of those versions of B12 with the ability to activate your methionine homocysteine pathway. This is really important for brain function, cognitive function, and heart health. And basically what it does is when you take methyl B12, it allows that pathway to go directly to provide more fuel, if you will, to the brain. So that was a very important switch that they made. The other change that was made, as I mentioned, was in the folic acid. Previously, we were using folic acid or folate that was sourced from folic acid, which was a synthetic version of what your body needs, which is folate. The change has been made to calcium N5 methyl tetrahydrofolate. Another name for that, a more common name that people who are aware of this will recognize, is L-methylfolate. So what this calcium N5 or the L-methylfolate hydrofolate will do is it is the biologically active version of folate. Biologically active meaning what your body directly needs. This form is transmitted across membranes into your peripheral tissues, particularly the blood-brain barrier. So it's very important. In the cell, this type of folate is used to methylate homocysteine. And, homocysteine is one of those things that if your homocysteine levels in your body go too high, it can lead to problems with coronary artery disease and stuff like that. Stuff you don't want to mess around with. So, you've heard me throw out this term several times, methylate or methyl B12 or methylfolate. Let's talk about what methylation is. Methylation is required for the creation of every cell in your body. So if it's not activated properly, it becomes a significant issue. The activated form of folate, so the version that we now have, L-methylfolate, goes on to give a methyl group to other nutrients and substances. And that is the process known as methylation. So it's basically giving to another group what it needs to make, what it needs to in turn hand off for other body processes. L-methylfolate is also used to create and process the body's neurotransmitters. So L-methylfolate is needed for your body to create and produce things like serotonin, epinephrine, dopamine. So it plays heavily into mental health. L-methylfolate is also needed to create immune cells and to process hormones. As well as to produce energy and to help detoxify chemicals from the body. So methylation is a really big deal. And if your body isn't properly methylating, which we're going to get to in just a second, it can create some significant health problems. Stress in all forms, emotional stress, physical stress, inhibits your methylation process as well. Another thing that a lot of people don't understand about how our body works is that our liver is the major processing system for our body. So it involves countless pathways, methylation being one of them, which allows your body to turn one nutrient into another. It also allows your body to take things that are toxic and turn them into non-toxins and eliminate them from the body. So whichever way this goes, you are preparing each to either be used by the body or to be expelled by the body. Where this becomes a problem is if something is going wrong in your body's ability to methylate, then it can't turn one nutrient into the other nutrient that it needs. And in terms of toxins, those toxins can't be expelled by the body because your methylation pathway is blocked, thereby blocking your body's ability to detoxify. So we're talking about some really significant things here. A great example, and just kind of I'm a visual learner, that was given to me one time about this was if you think of it like a staircase, okay? And if we're starting with folic acid, okay, we're taking a multivitamin that has folic acid, or we're taking, foods or other things that are fortified with folic acid. Folic acid is not naturally occurring in the body. So it's got to take it from the state that it's in or the form that it's in, and it's got to turn it through this methylation process into what it can use, which is methylfolate. If something is going wrong in that process, anywhere along the way, it's going to create issues systemically. So if you don't have a problem with methylation, your body can take the folic acid and turn it into what it needs. But if you've got an issue with methylation, you've got to think of the fact that your cells have receptor sites on them. I like to use the example of like a key going into a keyhole. There are certain things, hormones, etc., that need to go into these receptor sites. If you're not methylating properly, then it's like those receptor sites get gunked up with something that shouldn't be there, and the body just simply cannot work efficiently and in the way that it was designed to do. So we've talked about methylation. Hopefully you understand a little bit about what it is now let's talk about how do you know if you have an issue or a problem with methylation. So let's get into that. Put your science caps on, because here we go. In 2003, scientists completed a massive undertaking of what was called the Human Genome Project. They set out to map every single chromosome in the human body, and that years and decades worth of research was completed in 2003, and they learned a lot from it. One of the things that they learned was on the short arm of chromosome 2, they discovered both a genetic mutation and that mutation affecting an enzyme. So it's a little confusing because the mutation and the enzyme carry the same name. And the name of it was methylene tetrahydrofolate reductase. So since that's such a mouthful, they decided let's shorten that or nickname it MTHFR. Now, when you see MTHFR written out, it looks like, text messaging language for like a really bad word. But that's what they've called it, is MTHFR. What is MTHFR? MTHFR is a common genetic variant that causes a key enzyme in the body to function at a lower than normal rate. So essentially, your body's ability to methylate is inhibited. This can lead to a variety of medical problems when people with this MTHFR genetic mutation are exposed to more toxins than their bodies can handle, and also when they are not able to, fully utilize nutrients that the body is taking in. So it says common genetic variant. Estimations range anywhere from 40 to upwards of 60% of people in the United States carry at least one, if not multiple, mutations. And we'll talk about that just a little bit. So there are 50 known variants in this. You can test for it in one of two ways. You can go to your doctor and you can ask for a blood test. And if you do that, they are going to be looking for the two most common genetic variants. And those are the C677 and the C1298 genetic variants. Those numbers refer to the location on the gene. But like I said, there's 50 known variants. If you would like to know more information than what a blood test can give you, you can go to a website called 23andme.com, and you can order a home testing kit that they do through your saliva. You send that back to them, and they're going to give you a whole host of information. They can, through that test, they can trace back your ancestry. They can tell you, more information than you probably could even fathom with that. So let's talk about the two most common though, okay? So if you go to your doctor, you get this blood test, they come back and it says, okay, you have yada yada. So 677 is associated with early heart disease and stroke. If you'll remember, we talked previously about methylation and how important it is to keeping homocysteine levels down. The higher your homocysteine level goes, that increases your risk for things like heart disease and stroke. So this is important information to know. 1298 is associated with a variety of chronic illnesses, especially those related to mental health and autoimmune issues. You're either going to be what they call, I want you to think back to like high school biology, and if you'll remember the terms heterozygous and homozygous. So heterozygous meaning you've got, you got one set of genes from your mom, you got one set of genes from your dad. So a heterozygous result would mean that you have one set of the gene that's normal and one set that is affected. So one of the genes is affected. If that is the case, then your body's running at about 55 to 70 percent efficiency. So again, it goes back to your body's ability to work and run efficiently and properly. A homozygous result means that you've got two of those genes that are affected, and then all of a sudden the function drops significantly to like 7 to 10%. So there's a significant reduction there. The worst combination is what they call compound heterozygous, and that means you got a copy of 677 and you got a copy of 1298. And so you're carrying both 67 and 1298. And like I said, that is the worst possible combination to have, and the one that so many chronic illnesses are associated with. You can go to a website called MTHFR.net, and you can look at a list of every illness, every diagnosis, every possible thing that they might be that they have determined is associated with MTHFR in some way. A few examples would be fibromyalgia, irritable bowel syndrome, ulcerative colitis, autoimmune diseases, thyroid, a history of early miscarriage, even infertility. And another really important statistic to know is that 98% of children on the autism spectrum are affected by MTHFR in some way. So it's very important information to know in terms of whether or not your body is methylating properly. A couple of other things about MTHFR. It makes you more susceptible to illness if you're a carrier, because the pathway to glutathione production, and glutathione is your body's primary detoxifier, and it's also your body's powerhouse primary kick butt antioxidant. So you don't want anything to be inhibiting your body's ability to make glutathione. But people who have MTHFR will, have an issue with that. People with MTHFR are also more susceptible to stress and illness, and they are less tolerant of toxins. Those toxins meaning anything from an environmental toxin to, the toxins that we get from the foods that we eat, medications, even a vitamin that you could be taking. And that was why it was so significant that Plexus made the very forward-thinking decision to reformulate XFactor, because they have now eliminated, by taking the folic acid out and by taking the cyanocobalamin out and giving the methylated versions. You remember that little stair-step example that I gave you earlier. We're no longer relying on a potentially faulty body process to take one thing and turn it into something else. By taking this vitamin, you're immediately getting the methylfolate that you need and the methylcobalamin that you need. I hope that this helped to answer in plain English any questions that you may have about MTHFR, about methylation, and about XFactor. If you have any questions, feel free to message me on Facebook. I hope y'all have a great day.